I'm Reed H. Reed.
I'm Hannah Jickling.
And we've been working together since about 2007. We have different training and background, but together the thing that we're mostly interested in is editions and artist multiples, the way that work can exist in multiple contexts, like posters or zines or small works, how those can circulate outside of gallery contexts and make their way into unexpected spaces. The project that we have been working on together is more of a public art project called Big Rock Candy Mountain, and in that project what we were interested in doing is working and thinking alongside children about children's culture, capitalism, candy, the idea of taste. So working with kids to kind of unpack these things and remake children's culture kind of in ways that we imagine together. So that's Big Rock Candy Mountain.
It's great. We've been working together for a long time, so we've worked out the kinks, I think. And two brains is always better than one. In the larger Big Rock Candy Mountain projects, we work with a lot of people, so the collaborative aspect of our work really extends to a huge network of people. And we worked with a great friend and curator named Vanessa Kwan through the programming of other sites for artist projects, and that is how we got Big Rock Candy Mountain off the ground. And Vanessa said a great thing about constructing and designing the relational infrastructure of projects. So acknowledging that large-scale public works rely on relationships with groups of people and care for those relationships. And so I would say that is an extension of our collaborative project.
So when we start a project, we usually start with a proposition. So I guess the main one lately has been, what if we started a candy factory in an elementary school? And then from that, what if we designed a chewing gum with a group of grade 6 students? So we kind of start with this illogical proposition, and then we work with a group of students to make it happen. So we design the process together of how we get to the end product of this chewing gum or this candy bar or this soda pop or whatever. And so that process is really improvisational. And there's a ton of twists and turns and unexpected stuff, and that's kind of that's what makes it interesting for us, is the process of improv and how we arrive somewhere together. Yeah, this show was a little bit different than that previous process. It was just Hannah and I working together with also the support of 2 print techs at Malasapina Printmakers. That was Val Lowen and Maya Schuler Elms. And the idea for the prints came from these walks we were doing around the elementary schools that we were working with kids. So we would do these things called zigzag dorees, where we would kind of walk around the school and look for all the industrial signifiers, like those kind of like corners of candy wrappers and like disposable plastics and foils and little weird pixie stick straws and all that kind of stuff. So looking for these this evidence of industrial production around schools and the way that language infiltrates schools. And we would either collect those items or we would take pictures of them, and then we went into the studio and started composing with them. So with the collagraphs, we're directly inking those objects and running them through the press. And the interesting thing, like the improvisational thing in that process, is that each object requires a different kind of inking. So you kind of learn how to ink each object. Something like the peanut shells, like because they're so fragile and you can only run them through the press a certain amount of times, we learned that the best way to ink them is with like a fine toothbrush. So we would brush the ink onto the peanut shells and then run them through, and then you have a limited amount of time because the plate will start to deteriorate. So it's kind of like you find the sweet spot between the perfect inking for the plate and the plate not having been destroyed in the process of running it through the press.
We witnessed this weird phenomena so many times in classrooms because we're researching candy and working with chocolate. Kids are drawing chocolate bars. 9 times out of 10 we noticed that it wasn't just the chocolate they were drawing, it was also the zigzag edge on a chocolate bar. So it was like, we're like, are the two inseparable? Does chocolate always come with this packaging? Is packaging the thing, the signifier that makes chocolate legit in the minds of kids? So I think that's where the fascination with this zigzag edge came from. And because with Sour versus Sour, for example, which is on sale in the vending machine, that was a chocolate bar, the result of a long research project with grade 3 and 4 students, produced with East Van Roasters, a small bean-to-bar chocolate maker in East Vancouver. In the making of that project, we wanted to kind of riff on the legitness of that zigzag wrapper and to perform a kind of industrial realness. So we had to use pinking shears because we weren't producing enough to use a horizontal flow wrapper system.
Hannah and I have been researching histories of how artists have worked in schools. So there's the kind of artist in school paradigm that exists, and then there's all of these other ways that artists are working with children or inserting themselves into school systems. Sometimes as teachers, like there's this artist Jeff Gaze, is he Belgian?
I think so, yeah.
And he was a teacher at a local elementary school and produced a bunch of projects with the children in his class. So examples like that are kind of long-term engagement and very connected to the artist's practice. Those were the projects we were interested in. So we're researching that, and that's kind of what Big Rock Candy Mountain is a long-term engagement with kids. And then Hannah also, in the creation of the poster work Zigzag Zillionaires, was looking at this Anquara piece called Pure Consciousness, which is a series it's Anquara's date paintings, but installed into kindergarten classrooms. And the project brief, or the the project brief is that the teacher's not allowed to explain the paintings, and there's no press release, there's no media coverage, it's just paintings in a classroom that just the presence of them in the space. So we were thinking about that and how, since so much of our work happens in classrooms, how we could also locate a part of the exhibition in classrooms. So Zigzag Zillionaires, the poster, there's about 25 of them, and they're going to be placed in local classrooms. And then the poster also kind of functions as like a menu or a series of propositions of activities, and they're based on, in all of our collaborative projects, we have created a bunch of workshops out of that improvisational process, so we're repurposing some of those workshops for this context, and the CAG education team is going to be delivering those workshops, so those propositions are kind of listed in text on the Zigzag Zillionaires poster.
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a grand question in a way. I think we're curious to know if these prints function as documents in some way and point back to the larger research projects. It's hard to know if that's clear or not. It is a new process for us, a new way of image making adjacent to the larger collaborative works, so we'll be looking for feedback and anecdotes from you. I think, we've been talking about all of this garbage, and I think the garbage poses a kind of curiosity in these food systems, perhaps a nostalgia, maybe a kind of resentment, and hopefully an invitation to think about the food systems that we're a part of and how to inhabit them differently or more weirdly.